Gravity Falls is easily the best cartoon that has ever been on Disney Channel, and considering the current state of Disney, it's safe to say that will remain true for a long time. Premiering on June 15, 2012, Gravity Falls was an immediate success for Disney. The show had amazing characters, a unique and recognizable art style, a well-crafted story, and above all, a memorable duo of main characters, Dipper and Mabel Pines, along with an unforgettable villain, Bill Cipher. Even though the show was a huge hit among both critics and the fans, Gravity Falls sadly ended in February 2016, after just 2 seasons. And while there's always a possibility it could return someday, I highly doubt we will be seeing a season 3 anytime soon. And when an amazing cartoon like Gravity Falls comes to an end, fans really only have one job: keeping the community alive, whether that's through discussion servers, fan art, or my personal favorite, fan comics. I personally love fan comics because they keep the story alive even after the show ends. They let fans explore ideas the original creator could never touch, because, you know, Disney, adding more seriousness and sometimes even darker elements like violence or even death. And today, I want to talk about a Gravity Falls fan comic that takes that idea to a whole new level. A story that is unsettling, emotional, and honestly kind of disturbing. The comic is called Deal, and before we go any further, I have got to give you the good old content warning. So if you don't mind any of the topics listed on the screen right now, you can go ahead and keep watching. With that aside, let me present you the fan comic Deal. The comic starts with our main character, Gwen Pines, the daughter of Dipper Pines and Pacifica Northwest, so right away you can tell this story takes place several years after the events of the show. Gwen is in a place called the Mindscape, where she's about to make a deal with none other than Bill Cipher, which already kind of contradicts what happens in the actual show, because as we all know, Bill was erased from existence after Ford used the memory gun on his brother Stan. Yet somehow, in this fan comic, Bill is still alive, and is about to seal a deal with Dipper's daughter. Right before they shake hands though, Dipper suddenly appears and stops them. He tells Gwen to go home with him, but she refuses. She wants answers about the secrets her family has been hiding from her. Specifically, she wants to know the truth about Philip, who she claims is her long-lost twin brother. Dipper has no idea what she's talking about, but when Gwen shows him an old picture of Pacifica holding both Gwen and her twin brother, Dipper starts crying and demands to know where she got it. Gwen tells him it was her brother Philip who gave it to her, but according to Dipper that's impossible, because her brother is dead, and his name wasn't even Philip. Suddenly, Bill interrupts them. He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to make the deal with Gwen so he can finally get revenge on Dipper for what he and his family did to him 30 years ago. Even though they are all inside the Mindscape, Bill still has full control over their minds. He can't hurt them physically, but he can destroy them mentally, and he prepares to attack Dipper's mind. In a desperate attempt to save her father, Gwen ends up shaking the statue of Bill's hand, officially sealing the deal. She is successful in saving her father, however, she suddenly feels a sharp pain in her chest. It's Bill. He's teleporting Gwen's mind to a blank space, a space where he plans to show her the truth behind everything. The truth about her past, her family, and her so-called lost brother. Gwen suddenly feels herself watching a memory, her mother Pacifica, in an hospital room, holding her newborn son. His real name isn't Philip though, it's Dustin. Moments later, Dipper walks in holding baby Gwen, and right away we can see something unusual about her. She was born with 6 fingers. That immediately worries both parents. Pacifica says, "You know what her 6 fingers mean," and Dipper replies, "I just want to enjoy the moment before the funeral." What funeral, you might ask? Well, Uncle Ford's funeral. It's not super well explained in the comic, but from what I understand, there's this weird family curse. Whenever someone in the Pines family is born with 6 fingers, the previous family member with 6 fingers dies. So, since Gwen was born that way, that means Stanford was going to die. So, Ford dies, and to make things even worse, soon after his death, Pacifica starts having terrifying nightmares of Bill Cipher, who everyone thought was gone for good. But no, he had returned, and this time he wanted revenge on the Pines family. Gwen is then shown another memory. This time, she's in a small room playing with her twin brother, while Pacifica watches over them. Everything seems calm, until, after a few minutes, Pacifica falls asleep, and that's when Bill Cipher appears. He slips into Pacifica's mind and begins tormenting her again. Pacifica enters this weird sleepwalking state. She's not fully awake, but not completely asleep either, and in this state, she can actually see and talk to Bill. Bill starts toying with her mind, creating these horrifying illusions of her children, like one where bugs crawl out of Gwen's mouth. Pacifica panics. She can't take it anymore. The nightmares, the torment, she just wants it all to stop. So she grabs a golf club from her closet and starts swinging it at Bill. But Bill dodges every swing effortlessly, mocking her the whole time. She swings, swings and swings, and then bam! She finally manages to strike Bill, or at least that's what she thought. You see, as I told you earlier, Pacifica was in a sleepwalking state, which means she was able to see and talk to Bill, but he wasn't really there physically, he was only in her mind. So when Pacifica thought she hit Bill with her golf club, she actually ended up bonking her own son Dustin, who obviously on the spot. A few minutes later, Dipper arrives home and witnesses the terrifying scene of his wife holding the lifeless body of their son, and he can't contain his emotions. And as you can imagine, Gwen is already regretting this whole knowing her past thing. She doesn't want to see any more of this. She just wants to go home. But there are still a few more things Bill Cipher wants to show her. A week goes by and Pacifica still can't sleep. She can't get over the fact that she killed her own son. She can't even look at baby Gwen because, well, she looks exactly like Dustin. Dipper can't stand seeing his wife like this anymore. He has to do something, and he will. He visits his sister Mabel, who apparently is now married to Gideon, you know, the guy who tried to kill her when she was younger, but that doesn't really matter right now. Dipper's there for something else, a scrapbook filled with family photos, including the ones of his now deceased son. Mabel gives him the scrapbook, and right after that, Dipper uses the memory gun to erase Mabel's memory. He comes back home and once again he sees Pacifica crying in bed. He is tired of seeing his wife in such misery, tired of seeing her crying, tired of seeing her sad face. But soon it will all be over. Soon she will forget everything. Things will go back to normal. It will be like nothing ever happened, like she never even had a son. So Dipper pulls out the memory gun and erases Pacifica's mind. Whoa, this comic is really deep, huh? Let's take a second to breathe, relax a bit, and maybe hit that like button, wink wink. Anyway, let's move on. Erasing Mabel and Pacifica's memories was just part of Dipper's plan. He wanted to erase every single trace of Dustin's existence to make the entire world forget he ever existed. So Dipper uses some kind of strange magical computer to wipe every photo, video and document that mentioned his son. The only thing he keeps is a single photograph, the one taken right after Dustin was born. And that, of course, is the same photo Gwen used to confront her dad at the beginning of the comic. But that raises the question, how did Gwen even get that photo? According to her, it was her twin brother Philip who gave it to her, but we already know her twin brother is dead and his name wasn't even Philip. So who gave her that photo? Well, that's what we are about to find out. There was someone plotting with Bill Cipher against the Pines family, someone who also held a grudge against Dipper, and that someone was none other than Pacifica's own father, Preston Northwest. When Bill was first defeated, Preston was forced to sell his mansion just to keep what was left of his fortune after trying to ally with Bill. Since then, he's held a personal vendetta against the entire Pines family, and when Dipper married his daughter, yeah, that was the last straw. So Preston made a deal with Bill Cipher to destroy the Pines family and take everything back. But what he didn't expect was for Bill to kill his grandson Dustin in the process. That's when Preston starts to regret everything. He tries to call off the deal, but Bill uses his triangular charisma to convince Preston to keep going with the plan. I mean, his grandson is already dead, might as well commit a few more crimes. The next part of Bill's plan is to clone Dustin, using a blood sample that Preston secretly took from him before he died. And yeah, you can probably guess where this is going. That clone ends up becoming Philip. Preston will raise Philip in secret, making him believe that his parents hated him and only loved his sister Gwen. And to sell the lie even more, Preston also keeps a copy of that same photo Dipper kept, the one Gwen later used to confront him. Basically, Bill and Preston used that photo to manipulate Gwen into distrusting her own family. Gwen is horrified watching all of this unfold, realizing that Bill's plan worked out perfectly and that she was the key to making it happen. Preston goes to Rick Sanchez's house, yes, the one from Rick and Morty, to get Dustin cloned. I mean, technically it kind of makes sense since both Gravity Falls and Rick and Morty exist in the same fictional universe. Anyway, the only one home at the time is Summer, who agrees to clone Preston's grandson as long as he has got the cash, which he obviously does. They create the clone, name him Philip, and well, you know how the rest of the story plays out from there. With that, Bill completes his part of the deal he made with Gwen, showing her the truth about her brother. Now, it's Gwen's turn to fulfill her part of the deal, letting Bill take control of her mind. Gwen tries to fight back, but it's useless. Bill overpowers her and completely takes control of her body. Meanwhile, Dipper wakes up after being ejected from the mindscape. He rushes to the statue of Bill to check on Gwen, and she's still there, but sadly it's too late. Bill's already taken over. The scene suddenly cuts to Pacifica answering the door. She expects to see Gwen, but instead it's Philip, the clone of her dad's son. He's crying, saying he made a big mistake, probably referring to giving Gwen that photo that started all of this. And sadly, just when the comic was getting really interesting, it ends right on that cliffhanger, after the creator went on a hiatus. The fan comic first started back in early 2019, and the last panel was posted in February 2021. Yeah, more than 4 years ago. So chances are we are never getting an ending to this amazing story. Which is honestly a shame, because this comic could have easily worked as a Gravity Falls Season 3, if Gravity Falls was rated PG-16 that is. But even if it's unfinished, I gotta give props to the artist. The writing, the art, the atmosphere, it all perfectly captures the Gravity Falls vibe, while pushing the story into a darker territory the show could never explore. So if the creator ever decides to come back and finish it, I will definitely be there to read it. But until then, I guess this is where the comic deal ends.